Welcome to Measuring Success Right, the official student-led podcast of the Marriott Student Review, where we connect the leaders of tomorrow with the issues of today.
Welcome to another episode of the Measuring Success Right podcast. I'm your host today. I'm Josh Clausen, and joined by my friend Landon Saguibo.
Yes, sir.
He's the president of the BYU Fashion Association. It's great to have you with us, Landon.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, it's going to be super fun. So Landon and I, we have some marketing classes together, but I'm really excited for him to talk about. He just started the Fashion Association this semester. So we're super excited for him to tell us a little bit more, and more importantly, how he measures his success right. So I guess let's just kind of jump into it, shall we?
Yeah.
So I guess Landon, just tell us a little bit about yourself. What brought you to BYU? What are you doing here at BYU? Just tell us about yourself.
I'm Landon Saguibo. I'm born and raised in Provo, Utah. I am half Filipino. I am the youngest of 5 boys, and all growing up with all older 5 brothers. They're all really smart and really hardworking. And so every single time I'd go the first day of junior high, of high school, and even today with college, they're always like, "Oh, you're a Saguibo." And so for me, that's always really set the bar high. And so for me, I'm always wanting to kind of live up to that standard, but also hopefully make a name for myself one day. I served a mission in the Ivory Coast in West Africa, which is a super great experience. The people there are so humble and so selfless. Shortly after the Ivory Coast, I did the typical salesman route. So I did 2 years of sales and I made decent money. But for me, I was I want to do something that's more fulfilling for me. And so I ended up going the school path, and everyone's like, "Why would you go back to school after making decent money at sales?" And for me, it's been something that I haven't regretted. And so now I'm currently studying marketing at BYU. I'm a junior in the marketing program. And like you mentioned, I just recently started, I think it was a month ago, the Fashion Association, which is basically made to bridge the gap between the fashion industry and BYU business students. Because I found a lot of students want to work in that industry. So I'm trying to help kind of bridge that gap. And then outside of school, I love skiing. I love hanging out with my nieces and nephews, and I love traveling.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. I mean, in the Fashion Association, that's super exciting. And I'll ask you some questions about that here later, but I'd love to hear first. So you said you started in sales, and I think that's a very classic thing here, but I think not a lot of people pivot from sales back to school. I feel like it's kind of the other way around. So I'd love for you to maybe tell me how has being at BYU really impacted your life and maybe education in general? How has that kind of change your trajectory, and maybe what caused that shift in your life for you?
Yeah, that's a super good question. With sales, I feel like I learned a lot. It was really hard and really just taxing. And for me, being able to learn how to just have grit was really beneficial. And then also learning how to sell people and negotiate. I feel like those are really beneficial things. But for me, I feel like the trajectory of that is more just running a team and kind of that. And for me, I kind of wanted something a little bit more with that. And so with BYU, I feel like it has opened the doors for me and for the rest of my future. And I would say the main reasons are because we have really, really good professors who not only really care about you, but they're also really esteemed. They have industry experience, and they're kind of going to put you through a lot of hard work. Constantly with a lot of projects I work on, you're constantly working with teams and stuff like that. And so for me, I've learned 2 main things of grit and leadership. And so for me, I think that will help me I'll take that through me for the rest of my career. Leadership things, I feel like you can use that in everything. Being able to, work your way up in an industry, I think requires a lot of leadership, traits. And I feel like that's just how you have to learn how to do that when working in teams. And then with being all in, it is grueling. The marketing program is honestly really grueling, but that mentality I feel has kind of helped me transform into everything I do, of working with people in a different way than I did previously, but then also kind of just lining up future opportunities, because there's a huge network at BYU and there are limitless opportunities.
Mm-hmm. No, and I think so I have some class with Landon, and something that I think he totally excels at, and I'm really impressed about, is you are the best networker I think I've ever met. And I guess I'd love just maybe take a second and kind of maybe give some advice, because I think networking can be really scary.
100%.
So could you just what's your one piece of advice that you give for any BYU student? Because I think we do have incredible faculty here that have a very diverse range of experience. What advice would you give for maybe networking?
Yeah, I would say the advice I have is don't do what I used to do. I used to just check off the box. Oh, I want to go work at this company. I want to go do that. And I would just check off the box, and I would go message all these people. So for me, I would say reframing the way that you call it. So instead of saying networking, I would say making professional friends. An example I would do is messaging someone and actually asking them, obviously you want to learn about their career path and their work, but learn who they are as a person and try to build that genuine connection. And for me, I feel like that has worked numbers because people can tell when you're being like disingenuous. Like people can tell when you're not being genuine. And so like being genuine and not just checking off the box is, I think, really beneficial. And then as well, just putting yourself out there because it is scary. But for me, people want to help and are willing to help. And if you ask for it, sometimes they'll help. And it's been helpful for me. So
for sure. No, that's some great advice. I love professional friends. I love that term.
One of my friends, he was like telling me, he was like, there's this guy at McKinsey that he was interviewing with last year. And he ended up not working with them. Last week, he just barely golfed with him. Still maintaining that friendship. Who knows where that could boost you off? And he's been referred to by him with other companies. And so it's been beneficial for him.
I guess, Landon, I'd love to ask just a quick question. So the BYU Fashion Association, it's probably the newest club here at BYU. And I guess could you share just a little bit about the journey of creating that and your kind of intent? Like what's the purpose of the Fashion Association for maybe a listener that hasn't heard of it before?
Yeah. So the story of how it started, it was about 3 or 4 months ago. Me personally, I was on the internship search, and for marketing, there are a lot of companies, tech companies, CPG companies that recruit from BYU, and they're really great companies. But for me, I was like, I would be a little bit more passionate working at a Louis Vuitton, working at a Nike. And I feel like as a BYU student, there are a lot of connections in other industries, but there weren't any connections in the fashion industry. So I went and called my friend as soon as I thought about it. I'm like, maybe since there's not a network for us, why don't I go help create that for other students? So I called my friend Easton Carter and I was like, yo, we should start this. And literally he's like, I just barely DM'd someone to go get the fashion club Instagram account that day. And so it was definitely not a coincidence. Ever since starting it, we got approved about a month ago. It's kind of reinforced that, there is a huge need for BYU here. And so for us, it's like, for the first time ever at BYU, now, there wasn't a major, there wasn't a community, there wasn't a club. And now for the first time, there's not only community for people who are passionate about fashion, but more importantly, a place for people to help get placed into internships and jobs within that industry.
So I guess 5 years from now, where do you hope the Fashion Association is? And what do you hope to have it accomplish?
I would say I want as many people to get placed into internships and full-time jobs as possible. So for me, I would love to have someone come speak to me in 5 years and being like, thank you so much for starting this. Because of you, I was able to work at a company that I wanted because of the network that we're providing for people. And I know we're providing that for people. I think as well, students have to take initiative and they have to go do their networking to actually get placed. And so we're trying to give them industry insights and events like that where you can learn, hey, do I want to work at a career in fashion? Do I want to work at a company like Nike? And then most importantly, we're giving you connections within that industry, but you have to make something out of it.
So I guess what's your end goal? What do you want to get out of the Fashion Association? Where do you hope to be in the fashion industry, I'm assuming?
I would say I can't deny that it won't look good on my resume. But for me, like I said, it took 3 months to get approved. The first time I met with the faculty, I got an email back saying this thing's probably not going to get approved. And so I kept on pushing and pushing and pushing for 3 months, emailing. And for me, it's the main goal is I want to make an impact on students. Because I feel like that's really fulfilling for me. And so that's kind of the outcome that I want is just to make an impact with students.
No, that's great. And I guess what would be your pitch to maybe a freshman or a new listener that is kind of trying to find their place maybe within the business school or just maybe BYU in general?
I would say if you are interested in any side of business, whether it's finance, marketing, supply chain, etc., and if you would like to work at a company like Lululemon, Nike, or Louis Vuitton one day, and if you want to increase your chances, join the Fashion Association.
That's where I want to be, man. That's a great deal. So I think the Fashion Association is going to be a great thing at BYU. So thanks for your effort and putting that in, man.
Yes, sir. I gotta give credit to the team. We have a team of 10 students, and they're all really passionate and have their own individual strengths, and they're helping this come true.
No, yeah, it takes a village to get it going.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I guess my next question kind of pertains to the Marriott School values. So we have the 4 main values. It's faith in Christ, integrity, respect for all, excellence. I guess, do any of those stand out to you?
Mm-hmm. For me, I would say excellence. I would say just because, especially being at the Marriott School of Business, it's really competitive. And so I always am wanting to be kind of excellent at everything I do. And not perfect, but I want to be excellent at things I do because for me, it's not a very fun process to just check off the box. For me, I actually want to make the most out of what I'm doing and make the best things. And so whether that's going all out for a team project or, like you said, starting the fashion association.
Do you feel like excellence can, like, the pursuit of that is like intimidating or scary?
I would say it's a lot harder than having a comfortable life, because right now I could check off the box. I could do my classes, go get the grades, and kind of just end it there. But for me, I want to make an impact on BYU, on my career in the future. And so I think to have a really good outcome, you have to have a really above and beyond input. I feel like you can't do the average thing to get above average like outcome. And so for me, I feel like striving for excellence is what kind of gets you closer to there.
No, that's great. And I feel like just hearing your kind of story of the fashion association, even in your trajectory to get to school, it kind of seemed like you don't want to be average. You're like pushing yourself. What was it like getting told, no, this is probably not going to happen? And like for the fashion association, then keep going. Is that to me is the pursuit of excellence more than anything.
I mean, I was honestly really kind of sad, but also really frustrated because I believed in it so much that there is a need. Because I did a survey with like a bunch of students at BYU and everyone's like, I would love to be a part of this. I would love to kind of to join it. And for me, I was like, I have such a belief in this. And so that's kind of what pushed me to want to try to get this approved. And so, like I said, it took 3 months, but it's been really awesome. I've had like multiple BYU alums saying, this wasn't here when I was a student. And so they're trying to get involved by guest speaking and stuff like that to help this become something that they didn't have when they were here. So.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. It's like a tool, wouldn't you say, for like students?
100%.
Yeah. No, that's super exciting. And I guess so we're talking about like excellence, and I feel like the impact that you have, how can you measure that impact? Or is it something that you just hope is there?
I would say the biggest measure of success for me would be someone coming up to me firsthand and telling me how the fashion association or whatever it may be has impacted people. For me, I have always had really good mentors in my life, and I've had 4 older brothers, and they've always helped me out. And for me, I feel like now that I'm starting to build my own foundation in my life, I'm able to start making an impact on other people. For example, whether I'm helping someone like mentor someone into applying to the marketing program or whatever it may be. And when someone tells me like, thank you for your help, like it helped me with my path, or a student saying, hey, I would love to work at this company in the fashion industry, and now the fashion association is going to help. That is like the most fulfilling thing for me. Because I feel like there's a lot of like external things in the world, trying to get money, trying to get a cool car, trying to get cool sneakers. But for me, it's all about fulfillment and trying to make an impact.
No, and that, I love that idea of just like impact. I feel like that is such like it's kind of a broad term, but I feel like it may be broad, but it is a very specific thing that you're searching for. And I think it's just like helping others, making a difference. I think like the way we measure success is like critical, because I think for everybody it's unique and different. And I guess like I'd love to kind of hear your insights. Like you were definitely mentioning the impact. I guess like, is there anything else like how can like you measure your success? Like what to you is success, and what do you hope that success can bring?
That's a good question. I don't know. That's a good question. For me, it's like I always try to set goals, and I would say just getting those goals achieved, I would say that's one way to measure success. But also it's just like being confident with yourself, like being like, hey, I'm doing the right things. Maybe, the world's treating me in XYZ way, but it's like knowing that you're doing the right things and you're striving to be your best self. I think that's success in and of itself, because I think we all have different capabilities and we all have different strengths and we all have different paths and goals. But I think as long as we're all trying our best, I think that's what success looks like. And because, not everyone knows our intentions. Like I feel like Christ and God, they know our intent and they know who we are as individuals. And so as long as we just show up every day and just try our best, no matter how much money you make or what your grades are, I think that's what success is.
Is there like an experience that kind of comes to mind for you when you're thinking about measuring success? And I mean, it might even be the fashion association. I feel like that is such a great example of, at first they said no, and then reframe your train of thought and be like, this is a tool for BYU and you need to help them see that.
I would say that's my biggest measure of success recently, just because it was such a grind and there were so many random steps that we had to hurdle over to be able to get it approved. And for me, now that it's approved, I'm like, now we can kind of get the ball rolling and start making an impact on students. And so I would say that's the biggest measure of success for me recently.
No, that's awesome. And I guess like, do you have any like advice that you would offer to maybe a student that's like in a similar position as you. I think we all come to BYU and we have like these dreams and ambitions. And I think it's easy to be kind of crushed a little bit. And I think like, do you have any advice for like a student that like with their goals and stuff on how they can achieve them?
hmm I would say like a few things come into mind. I would say the first thing for me is taking control of your story. Because I feel like a lot of people, family members, professors, or even peers have opinions on how you should live your life. I think taking that advice is really beneficial. But I think a really important thing that I've learned is from Professor Easterling, my freshman year, I believe. He told me, you can grab the pen and write your own story. So no matter what the cliches are, what the stereotypes, what the standards are for how you should live your life, you can grab that pen and you can live it in the way that you want to. Obviously, not saying like, go do whatever you want, but it's saying, everyone's advising you to go major in this, it's your life. And so take control of your pen. I would say that's one thing that I've incorporated in my life. Another thing is just being all in. I listened to the graduation speak by Ryan Smith. It still lives with me to this day. I feel like I'm constantly so busy with a lot of different things. And I think there's a huge value of being all in everything you do. So being present in everything you do. So right now, us being present, not me worrying about the homework I have due tonight, but also when I'm doing teamwork, being present there. But most importantly, in relationships, when you're with family, when you're with friends, being present there. So being all in everything you do. And then the last thing I would say is just going above and beyond and being proactive. Because I think that's something that makes a lasting impact. You don't just check off the box. You go above and beyond. You don't wait for people to tell you what to do. You go and do everything in your power to make a difference. For me, that's how I've been trying to live my life. And I feel like that's why I've been having certain results recently.
So I think we sometimes feel like we have all the time in the world or no time at all. Could you speak a little bit into like, how do you recommend or what advice would you offer for being all in everything? Because I'm sure as students, you feel like you can devote only so much time to each thing. What advice do you have?
I have an interesting take on this. I used to say balance, balance, balance. And I really valued balance in my life of having gym time, diet time, free time, school time, and kind of have that all separated. But for me recently, I've kind of understood that like sometimes in life, there are seasons where you can't have any balance and you have to just accept that that's going to be the case. And so for me right now, it's like, it just depends where your priorities are. What do you want to get done? So for me, I want to excel in career path. I want to excel in school and I want to make the Fashion Association as impactful as possible. And so I'm going to be honest, I don't have a balanced life right now. I'm not eating the best. I'm not going to the gym as much as I'd like to. And I'm not really hanging out with friends. And I'm just working. And at times it's a little bit difficult, but it's just understanding what do you have to sacrifice and are you willing to sacrifice that? And so for me, I understand the bigger picture with where my life could be headed. And so for me, I'm willing to sacrifice a lot of fun things to get kind of an outcome, I guess. But then again, I haven't really done anything with my career yet. Hopefully it turns into something. But for me, I just think sometimes you don't have balance in life and you just need to accept that. But it just depends where your goals are. So
no, it sounds like you're almost kind of, to me, I'm almost hearing that you almost have to tie it back to like rewriting your narrative a little bit where it's like, okay, what is my purpose here? You know what I mean? And like, I think like there's only so much time in the day to accomplish everything that you need to. And sometimes you have to prioritize those things. It doesn't mean that you can do everything.
Yeah. And like, sometimes not sometimes, almost every weekend, I'm at the Tanner building doing homework, working on some project at nighttime. And it's like, it sucks sometimes, you want to go hang out. And I think it's good to have a little bit of balance to sharpen your saw. But I think when it comes down to it, I think it's a lot of getting things that you want in life is just really a grind. So
no, definitely. And I guess like for you, like I feel like to like be in school to accomplish all that you've accomplished, you have to have like a purpose or like kind of a why, something that drives you.
I would say just to become the best version of myself, because the better I am for myself, the more I'll be able to help other people. So whether it's my children or whether it's just anyone that I can impact in my future, I would say that's kind of what pushes me. Like I really do just want to help other people. There's nothing more fulfilling than being able to, let's say in my busy schedule, having to do homework or whatever, someone gives me a call and like, hey, I need a chat. I'm like, okay, I'll go chat with them and sacrifice like a little bit of homework time to go chat with them for 30 minutes. And then to receive a text back from them and be like, hey, that meant a lot. Like I felt lonely or whatever. Like for me, like that's what pushes me forward.
for listening to the Measuring Success Right podcast. If you like this episode, please share it with a friend and subscribe so you don't miss the next interview. The Measuring Success Right podcast is a production of the Marriott Student Review. This episode was produced by Stuart Bird, Allison Pope, Sarah Bird, Taya Wolf Hobson, and Jackson Berthold. Sound design and audio engineering by James Call. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast do not reflect the official views or opinions of Brigham Young University or The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.